Shadows over Solaris. Welcome to our channel. Imagine a forgotten human colony under brutal oppression by a ruthless criminal syndicate and a mysterious hidden power capable of changing the planet's fate forever. In our story today, Elena Hart, a disgraced ex-soldier, and four powerful Arcadian princesses unite an unlikely resistance to face overwhelming odds. But when the Orion Syndicate launches a devastating final assault, Elena must risk everything to unlock an ancient machine known as Project Starfall. Will Elena and her new allies harness its power in time, or will Solaris 7 fall into eternal darkness? Listen to the very end, because this epic showdown might just decide the future of humanity itself. If you enjoy thrilling tales of courage, redemption, and the unstoppable spirit of humanity, please subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Don't forget to comment below and share your thoughts and tell us where you're tuning in from. Chapter 1. The Forgotten World. Far from Earth's bustling networks, there existed a desolate fringe known as Solaris 7, a dusty, sun-scorched colony once heralded as a beacon of human ambition. But the promises made by Earth's governments had long been broken, and after only a few decades of resource extraction, the colony was all but forgotten. As trade routes shifted, famine followed, then disease. The stories that remained spoke of a once thriving settlement that fell into ruin when the galaxy lost interest. Commander Elena Hart never imagined she would end up on Solaris 7 of all places. Once a decorated officer in Earth's Planetary Defense Corps, she had lost faith after a high-profile betrayal. Few recalled the details. Rumors suggested Elena had refused an unethical order during a border conflict, leading to court-martial threats. Whatever the truth, she vanished from official records. Disillusioned, she drifted from world to world, selling her combat expertise to mining outposts or defense militias until she eventually found herself on this forgotten planet. The colony itself was far from what she'd pictured. A cluster of half-collapsed domes sprawled across a dusty plain, each connected by patched-up tunnels that barely withstood the scorching daylight. Outside these domes lay endless dunes shimmering under twin suns, with swirling dust devils sweeping across the horizon. Every so often, an out-of-date cargo freighter would limp into orbit, delivering scraps of supplies. It was no place for hope, just a purgatory for those with nowhere else to go. Elena had spent her first months on Solaris 7 in a mechanic's shop, posing as a modest technician who serviced air scrubbers and water purifiers. Though nobody recognized her as a former officer, her posture and the scars on her arms told a story of past battles. She favored a worn flight jacket and utility pants, seldom speaking of Earth or the days she wore official insignia. The locals rarely asked personal questions anyway. They each carried secrets of their own. On a scorching afternoon, rumor reached Elena that an imposing group known as the Orion Syndicate was taking over. Initially, she dismissed it as hearsay. Criminal syndicates prowled the galaxy's margins all the time, especially where law was absent. But within weeks, it became clear these weren't just petty raiders. They arrived in well-armed ships, demanded tribute from the colonists, and seized control of the planet's only functioning spaceport. Her quiet existence was shattered the day they burst into the mechanic's shop. Clad in black and silver armor, the syndicate's tax collectors barked orders, handing out ID tags, scanning for contraband, or forcibly recruiting local labor. Resistance meant beatings, or worse. Elena, crouched behind a broken purifier, watched silently as they ransacked the workshop. She kept her head down, fists clenched, a million retorts on the tip of her tongue. She could have incapacitated them in seconds, but that would have blown her cover. One syndicated bruiser singled her out, demanding protection money. She stared coldly, then handed over the last credits she had. "Don't give me that look," the bruiser sneered. "Orion runs this dump now." With that, Elena realized her peaceful anonymity was gone. If the syndicate was staking a claim, the colony's freedom teetered on the edge of oblivion. She'd seen enough merciless outfits to know they would milk the colonists dry, enslave them if needed, and move on once every resource was stripped. Her anger simmered. She might have been content living out her days in obscurity, but she wouldn't stand by while a gang of well-armed criminals terrorized innocents. Something in her old soldier's conscience refused to stay quiet. That same evening, Elena took a covert trip outside the settlement. trekking across dunes until she reached an abandoned communications tower at the desert's edge. The station still had a partially functioning wide-range scanner. She wanted to see if there were any signs of off-world help, but all she detected was a single large Orion Syndicate cruiser in orbit, and no hint of Earth or any formal government responding to distress calls. A single cruiser was enough to quell resistance here. No local militia could match that firepower. Elena walked back under the brilliant starlight, the night sky a tapestry of distant suns and swirling cosmic dust. She felt more determined than she had in years. She had the training, the drive, and maybe, if she found allies, the chance to stand up to the Syndicate. In the coming weeks, her path would intersect with four extraordinary beings from an alien royal lineage, their destinies colliding in a battle for liberation. For now, Elena only knew that she could no longer hide from her own principles. The seeds of rebellion had been planted in the scorched soil of Solaris 7. All it needed was a spark. Chapter 2. Princesses of Arcadia. The planet Arcadia was a legend across many star systems, a place where advanced technology and regal tradition coexisted seamlessly. The Arcadians had once formed alliances with Earth, exchanging knowledge of terraforming in return for raw materials. In Arcadian mythology, 4 royal seeds would be born every few generations, each carrying a fragment of the planet's future. Some believe these seeds were metaphorical, referring to epic moments in Arcadia's history. Others claimed they were literal, that every so often an Arcadian monarch produced quadruplets with enhanced abilities: diplomacy, strategy, warrior instincts, and healing gifts. Centuries passed, many Arcadians turned to commerce and exploration, forging peaceful ties throughout the galaxy. But the rumor persisted: 4 princesses living at once, each destined to shape Arcadia's fate. When whispers emerged that the quadruplet heirs of the Arcadian line had disappeared, few believed it. Yet it was alarmingly true. They had been kidnapped. Princess Relima, Princess Solari, Princess Evrin, and Princess Kalura vanished from their palace during a diplomatic reception. Investigations revealed that a rogue faction within Arcadia's own ranks had sold them to an outside force, the Orion Syndicate. Why? Possibly for political leverage or a new frontier. The Syndicate specialized in trafficking high-value assets for profit or power. The news shook Arcadia. The monarchy was outraged, sending discreet envoys to track the missing heirs. But leads dwindled, and the quadrants turned silent. Weeks of captivity followed for the sisters, each day more harrowing. They were forced onto a cramped transport, stripped of ceremonial garb, and denied their royal privileges. The Syndicate recognized their worth, not just as potential ransoms, but as vessels of Arcadian technology and knowledge. The princesses possessed partial intelligence on Arcadian terraforming, advanced healing practices, and even genealogical secrets that could open doors to uncharted worlds. Eventually, the sisters were separated and held in different cells within an Orion Syndicate cruiser. Their captors teased that soon the monarchy would pay, or they might be sold piecemeal to the highest bidder. Despite the shock of their predicament, the 4 princesses refused to be broken. Arcadians seldom cowered in the face of adversity. Each sister possessed a unique gift cultivated from childhood. Relima, a natural diplomat, known for her empathetic leadership. Solari, the strategist and warrior, adept with Arcadia's tradition of blade and bow. Evrin, gifted with a deep connection to technology and healing sciences. Kalura, spiritually attuned, rumored to hold an inherited Arcadian skill for energy manipulation. They communicated via coded knocks on the cell walls, forging hope and solidarity. After an indefinite number of warp jumps, the cruiser finally descended upon a dusty planet that none recognized. They were herded out under the glare of twin suns, discovering it was a harsh place of cracked earth and survival domes. A Syndicate lieutenant informed them, "Welcome to your new home, Solaris 7. At first, the princesses believed this to be another prison, perhaps with more advanced facilities. But it seemed even the Syndicate had minimal infrastructure here. That realization unsettled them. If their captors were using a remote, neglected colony, it meant no one else was likely to intervene. The sisters dreaded the next steps: forced labor, experimentation, or exploitation of Arcadian knowledge. Being sold to different factions was also a looming threat. Despite the stifling heat, Relima kept her chin high when Syndicate guards marched them into a sealed dome. The interior reeked of stale air, half filled with broken crates. Solarii tested the guards' attention by feinting a stumble, but they quickly shoved her upright. No chance for an immediate escape. Everin glanced at the battered environment. Rusted machines, flickering neon signs. Malnourished colonists cowering at the sight of syndicate uniforms. Kalura bowed her head quietly, as if focusing on an inner strength. What they saw broke their hearts. The colonists had no illusions. Some hovered near the edges of the dome, the fear in their eyes mirroring the hopelessness that came from decades of neglect. If the sisters yearned for rescue, it would not come from these battered locals. Yet within that crowd, one figure stood out, a woman in greasy overalls, arms folded, posture tense. She observed the syndicate with cool calculation. The moment was fleeting, and the princesses barely registered her presence before being shoved deeper into the settlement. But each felt something stirring, an ally perhaps. It was enough for hope to kindle. That woman, of course, was Elena Hart, blending into the crowd while scoping the situation. She noticed the new arrivals, 4 regal individuals with an unyielding aura, captives clearly. Another injustice inflicted by Orion's strong-arming. Elena's soldier instincts sparked. She suspected these newcomers might be key to overthrowing the syndicate. If so, the galaxy had a twisted sense of humor, planting 4 alien princesses in the most miserable corner of humanity's dominion. Even so, it might be the very break Solaris 7 needed. Chapter 3. Allies in the Shadows. Elena made her move that same night. She couldn't just stroll into the syndicate's makeshift detention area. It was brimming with watchful guards. Instead, she covertly gleaned info by chatting with fearful locals who had glimpsed the captives. Through whispered confessions, she learned that these 4 elegant women seemed far from ordinary. Their posture, their odd but refined accent, their unwavering composure. Some suspected they were high-born or even royalty from a distant star system. Intrigued, Elena decided to do more than observe. The next dusk, she slipped into the underbelly of the settlement, an area partially collapsed from years of neglect. Broken catwalks hung precariously, and ventilation vents hissed with stale recycled air. The corridor led to a series of old storage rooms rumored to be where the syndicate locked up special assets. She wore black, face hidden by a rebreather scarf, and carried a small kit for sabotage. Scanning for guards, she found 2 posted at a sealed bulkhead. She recognized their gear, standard Orion Syndicate rifles, modified for close quarters. She debated lethal action but decided against it. A better approach was quiet infiltration. Reaching into a pocket, she produced a small scrambler disc. With a flick of her wrist, she lobbed it near the guards. The device emitted an electromagnetic burst that instantly shorted the overhead lights and caused the guards' earpieces to crackle with static. While the 2 cursed in surprise, Elena sprinted forward, landing precise strikes with her baton. The guards collapsed with minimal noise. She dragged them aside, relieved that the corridor's camera had also flickered off from the scrambler's effect. Inside, dim lights revealed a cramped cell block. Cells were arranged in a circle around a central control station. One cell in particular drew her attention. Behind a flickering energy barrier stood 4 distinctly alien women, each with a proud bearing despite obvious fatigue. One had long golden hair, another silver-white, the third wore a short bob, and the fourth had intricately braided locks. They looked up, startled, their gazes locked. Elena found no malice, only cautious hope. She raised a finger to her lips, then approached the control console. She typed a quick override, but the interface beeped a requirement for higher clearance. Time was short. She removed a small universal hacking module and clamped it onto the console. Sparks flew as the module fought the syndicate's encryption. One of the sisters stepped close to the energy barrier. She spoke in softly accented standard. "Who are you?" "Elena," she whispered. "Human. I can't stand what they're doing here." The one with golden hair, who introduced herself as Relima, gave a calm nod. "We owe you thanks, Elena. We're not criminals." "I know," Elena replied, "but I need to hurry or the syndicate will send reinforcements." Within seconds, the energy field dropped. The 4 women emerged cautiously. Solarii, the warrior spirit sister, studied Elena's posture and asked, "Why help us?" Elena shook her head. "Because I've seen enough of Orion's brutality. And, well, you might be the best chance this colony has to break their grip." They exchanged glances, uncertain. yet desperation and trust overcame wariness. Everin softly added, "We are Arcadian royals, if that matters. We were kidnapped. My sisters and I want to be free, and to stop Orion from whatever they plan." Kalura, the most ethereal in presence, gently placed a hand on Elena's shoulder. "Your energy resonates with duty, even if you try to hide it." Elena's throat tightened. She wasn't used to that kind of sincerity. "Come on, we need to slip out before the entire place goes on alert." The small group dashed into the corridor. However, luck betrayed them. The backup power kicked in, reactivating the cameras. A klaxon wailed as red emergency lights bathed the cell block. "Intruder in Sector D," a synthetic voice blared. "At least we're out," Relima said with grim resolve. They rushed through half-collapsed passages. Elena led the way, weaving around corners, avoiding patrolling guards. Occasionally they had to subdue stragglers. Although the sisters lacked advanced weapons, Solarii displayed surprising skill, disarming a guard and using his own rifle's butt to knock him cold. The others showed remarkable composure, quickly adapting to this environment. Eventually they reached a hatch leading up to the settlement's surface. It opened onto an alley behind the mechanic's shop. For now, they were free, albeit in a territory the Syndicate heavily controlled. Elena guided them inside, shutting the door behind them. The workshop's faint overhead light revealed the battered machinery and tools. The air was thick with tension. "This is my place, more or less," Elena murmured, yanking off her scarf. "Lay low here, and I'll figure out the next step." Everin exhaled, sinking onto a stool. "You have our gratitude. If I can repay you, I will." Relima quietly nodded. "We don't intend to be a burden, but we cannot remain captive either." Elena hesitated, feeling the weight of new responsibility. "Syndicate will tear this colony apart searching for you. We need a plan." But slowly the shock of their escape ebbed, replaced by an unspoken sense of alliance. They were an unlikely band, a hardened human ex-soldier and 4 alien princesses. But in the gloom of Solaris 7, something profound stirred between them. A shared purpose had emerged. Undermine the Syndicate, reclaim freedom, and perhaps restore hope to a colony long abandoned. Chapter 4, The Lost History of Solaris 7. As the night dragged on, Elena offered them water and protein rations. The sisters, still weary from captivity, huddled around a dim electric lantern. Outside, distant voices and the hum of Syndicate's search parties drifted through the settlement. For the moment, nobody dared speak above a whisper. Eventually, Elena cleared her throat. "So, we know you're from Arcadia, but what brought you into Orion's path?" Solarii, arms folded, responded, "Betrayal from someone close to our royal court. They sold us to Orion. We're not sure who, but once we're safe, we'll find out." Relima added, "Our capture was well planned. Arcadia was focusing on forging new alliances, and we were to represent the monarchy's future. The kidnappers targeted us at a diplomatic function, then vanished." Kalura's eyes flickered with an otherworldly calm. "We sense that you have your own story, Elena." Elena shrugged. "I used to serve in Earth's planetary defense. Let's say I refused orders that would have hurt a lot of people. I ended up with a dishonorable discharge. Been drifting ever since." Everin gave a soft nod. "You have the stance of a soldier still." A loaded pause followed, broken by the hiss of the dome's ventilation. Then Elena changed the topic. "All right, the Syndicate is a threat. But the bigger question, why set up shop on Solaris 7? This place is worthless to most, unless they found something." Kalura lifted her head as though recalling something. "On the cruiser, I overheard Orion members mention an ancient facility hidden on this planet. They seemed excited. They said it might double their influence." Elena frowned. "An ancient facility? I've never heard that rumor." Solarii's eyes narrowed. "Could it be Arcadian technology left here ages ago? Or something from Earth's old expansions?" Ralima weighed in. "Possibly a leftover from the first wave of human colonization. Maybe advanced terraforming equipment, or a subterranean complex with valuable resources." For a moment, Elena recalled hearing local legends about a canyon of the ancients, but no one ever found evidence. Could the Syndicate have discovered a hidden vault or database containing technology they could exploit? That might explain their determination to occupy Solaris 7. She exhaled. If they get their hands on some powerful tech, especially if it's an Arcadian variant, it could be catastrophic. They'd strengthen their black market empire, enslaving more worlds. From her vantage seat, Everin sighed. We can't let that happen. A pang of moral duty stirred in Elena. She turned to the group. I spent enough time ignoring problems. Now that you're here, maybe we can do more than just survive. Maybe we can drive the syndicate off this rock. She paused, almost laughing at the enormity of the notion. But it's going to take more than the 6 of us if we count me, plus the 4 of you, and maybe a handful of colonists. Relima straightened. We've engaged in negotiations on dozens of worlds. If we rally the colonists, unify them, we might build a resistance. Solari nodded vigorously. A small, determined force can cripple a larger enemy if it strikes from within. Elena recognized the truth. The colony might be broken, but there were still hundreds of survivors. Many likely wanted revenge against the syndicate. With leadership, they might mobilize. The question was whether they had enough time and resources to do it before the Orion cruiser simply bombarded them from orbit. Step 1, Elena said, is to ensure your safety. Step 2, gather intel on this rumored ancient facility. Step 3, sabotage the syndicate's operations. Are you with me? The 4 sisters exchanged resolute glances. Kalura smiled gently. Together. They sealed their pact with quiet determination. If fate had placed them all on this forsaken colony, perhaps it was so they could unite. The synergy between Elena's soldierly cunning and the sisters' unique gifts just might deliver a miracle. HFY, humanity, fuck yeah, could ring true not only for Earth, but for all who yearn for freedom in the cosmos. Chapter 5. Seeds of Resistance. The next few days passed in hushed urgency. Elena and the sisters lived hidden in the workshop's underground storage, relying on discreet colony sympathizers for basic supplies. Word spread quietly that new allies had arrived, an ex-soldier and 4 regal-looking outsiders who had defied Orion. Some colonists dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, they weren't condemned to permanent servitude. Meanwhile, the syndicate escalated its crackdown. Patrolling squads moved through every dome, scanning ID chips, imposing curfews. Anyone suspected of collaboration faced brutal beatings. A sense of gloom deepened, but so did a quiet anger among the people. Elena recognized the signs of an oppressed population nearing its breaking point. One evening, Elena led Relima and Solari to a hidden meeting in an old aqueduct chamber. About 20 colonists had gathered, faces lit by flickering glow rods. Their expressions ranged from skeptical to desperate. Elena introduced the sisters, explaining that they were fugitives with valuable knowledge. Ralima's diplomatic skill shone as she spoke softly about unity, weaving an earnest vision of a better tomorrow. At first, the colonists were too weary to believe. They'd been scammed by false prophets before. But Ralima's sincerity and Elena's reputation for being tough but fair swayed them. Gradually, the murmur of dissent turned into seeds of resistance. A grizzled miner named Zach, known for rallying neighbors during crises, stood up. We'll help, but we need real weapons and a plan. None of us are soldiers. Solari placed a hand on her chest. I will train you. I'm not from your world, but Arcadia has taught me the ways of combat. If you can handle a pickaxe, you can handle a rifle. The crowd exchanged glances. A spark of possibility lit their eyes. Elena tapped a battered data slate. I've mapped out syndicate guard routes. We can start with small raids, stealing supplies, freeing captives, build momentum. The group nodded, exchanging determined looks. A hush fell as they recognized the risk. The penalty for rebellion would be death. Rallying a handful of colonists was one thing, facing the entire Orion syndicate was another. But the sisters displayed unwavering resolve. Over the next weeks, they established hidden outposts and collapsed tunnels. Everin helped craft improvised devices using Arcadian science and local scrap. She discovered that the colony's old utility drones could be reactivated, turned into decoys or sabotage units. Kalura provided a calm presence, easing tensions, sometimes practicing minor energy manipulations that soothed injuries or boosted morale. The bigger puzzle was the ancient facility rumored to exist somewhere in the southwestern canyon region. With the help of Zach's local knowledge, Elena pinpointed a location often avoided by the colonists, Stormfall Crater, where old Earth equipment had once scanned bizarre readings. The area was plagued by dust storms and geologic instability. That could be exactly why the facility remained hidden. While the colonists prepared for sabotage missions, Elena and the sisters decided to do reconnaissance. If the syndicate was also searching for the crater, time was of the essence. A small team set out at dawn, riding in a battered crawler vehicle. They wove past syndicate patrols, forging deeper into the desert than Elena had ever gone. The twin suns climbed overhead, turning the sky into a scorching haze. The crawler's engine rattled ominously. As they approached the crater, swirling dust devils battered the hull. The entire region felt eerie, like a graveyard of forgotten technology. The ground was littered with shards of strange alloys, half-buried towers, and skeletal remains of old drilling rigs. SOLARIS scanned the horizon with binoculars. "I see no syndicate vehicles." Relima, shading her eyes, whispered, "Look there." She pointed to a jagged opening in the canyon wall. Metallic glints suggested an artificial structure. A door or hatch partially collapsed. Elena halted the crawler. "We'd better check it out on foot. Keep your eyes peeled for traps." They climbed out, navigating the debris. The wind howled, driving dust into their eyes. At last, they reached what looked like a reinforced hatch built into the rock. Strange markings in old earth lettering read, "Subterranean Facility, Authorized Personnel Only, Project Starfall." Everyone traced the words, brow furrowed. Project Starfall? That name resonates with something from Arcadian archives, but I'm not certain. Kalura brushed her hand over the metal. "The energy here is dormant, yet potent. If the syndicate harnesses it, we're doomed." Elena exhaled, heart pounding. They had found the rumored facility, possibly containing powerful technology. Orion would stop at nothing to seize it. If the colonists wanted freedom, they'd have to get here first, or somehow deny the syndicate access. A new wave of determination rushed through Elena. She pressed a palm against the sealed hatch. "We need to figure out how to open this, or how to destroy it if that's safer." The swirling sand felt like razor blades against their skin, but they stood their ground. They had glimpsed the heart of Solaris 7's secret, and the stage was set for a confrontation that could reshape the colony's destiny forever. Chapter 6. The Orion Counterattack. Returning to the settlement at dusk, Elena and the sisters shared their discovery with the nascent resistance. A plan formed. They had to secure the Starfall facility or sabotage it if necessary. But before they could act, the Orion Syndicate launched a brutal crackdown. Alerted to repeated sabotage and the rumored presence of rebellious outsiders, the Syndicate's orbiting cruiser deployed more troops to the surface. Under the command of a fierce lieutenant named Vorox, squads began terrorizing the domes, searching for the ringleaders behind the acts of defiance. The local workshop district was hit first. Clashes erupted in back alleys. The freshly trained miners tried to hold off Syndicate foot soldiers with improvised rifles, but faced heavy losses. Explosions lit the night as small bombs, Everin's handiwork, detonated near Syndicate supply caches. Grit and desperation fueled the colonists, but they were outgunned. Elena and Solaria led a strike team that targeted the Syndicate's armory in an attempt to seize better weapons. The mission was only partially successful. They destroyed the armory, but retrieved fewer rifles than expected. During the fray, Elena confronted Vorox. A tall, imposing figure in reinforced armor, Vorox brandished a plasma lance. Their brief duel crackled with raw force. Elena's agility let her dodge lethal thrusts, but she couldn't land a decisive strike. Ultimately, she forced him back with a well-placed stun grenade. "I won't forget this," he snarled, before retreating. Meanwhile, Relima and Everin coordinated relief efforts in the tunnels. Kalura used her gentle healing abilities to soothe burns and fractures. Despite the case, their presence inspired the colonists. "If these outsiders, these Arcadian princesses, fight at our side, then maybe we stand a chance," people murmured. Yet the Syndicate was methodical. They surrounded key domes, capturing or killing anyone found near. Casualties mounted on both sides. Overnight, once bustling corridors turned into gloom-filled war zones. The colonists' morale wavered. Even Elena, sweat-soaked and exhausted, wondered if they'd bitten off more than they could chew. The possibility of a final orbital bombardment loomed like a silent threat overhead. On the second day of the crackdown, Vorox publicly broadcast a chilling ultimatum. "Hand over the 4 alien fugitives and their human accomplice, Elena Hart. Cease your sabotage, or we incinerate the entire dome. You have until sundown." The colony reeled. Fearful families begged the resistance to surrender. Whispers circulated that maybe giving up the princesses was the only way to save thousands of innocent lives. But Ralima insisted on negotiating. There's still time to reach them with reason. Others, including Zack the miner, argued that the syndicate was beyond reason. Solarii bristled. We can't let them take us. They'll kill us anyway and enslave the colony afterward. In the workshop's hidden cellar, tensions ran high. Kalura, tears in her eyes, touched the trembling hands of a mother whose children had nowhere to hide. Everin stared at the scarred walls, mind racing for an alternative. Elena paced, fists clenched, images of her old battlefield traumas flashing in her thoughts. Finally, Elena spoke. The only shot is to lure the syndicate forces away from the main dome, giving the colonists time to evacuate or defend themselves. Meanwhile, we direct any survivors to rendezvous near Starfall Crater. That facility might be both our best refuge and the key to driving Orion away. They formed a bold gambit. Ralima would approach the syndicate to surrender, stalling them. The rest would orchestrate a mass evacuation, guiding families through maintenance tunnels to remote hideouts. Meanwhile, smaller resistance cells would set charges to sabotage the dome's structural supports, an extreme measure to prevent Orion from occupying it as a fortress. Then Elena and the sisters would slip away, heading for the crater. If the syndicate followed, they could battle on ground less populated, hopefully away from civilian crossfire. Dread filled every corner of the settlement as the sun sank lower. The final hours approached. People packed what belongings they could carry, uncertain if they'd ever see their homes again. Children clutched parents' hands, tears glistening. The heartbreak was tangible, but so was the flicker of determination in Elena's eyes. Verox's forces gathered in the central plaza, bristling with weapons. Overhead, the Orion cruiser loomed ominously. Ralima stepped forward alone, regal even in dirty, tattered clothes. She raised her hands in a conciliatory gesture. I come to negotiate. Verox sneered, ordering his men to seize her. At that moment, distant explosions rumbled beneath the dome. The colonists' sabotage had begun. The floor shook violently. Fissures cracked open, spewing dust. Panicked syndicate troopers scattered. The entire structure seemed on the brink of collapse. Verox roared, You fools! Amid the chaos, Ralima ducked and slipped away, guided by Everin, who appeared from a side alley. They vanished into a labyrinth of collapsing corridors. Verox's outraged commands echoed behind them. Find them! Kill them all! Elena and Solari led a desperate breakout from the dome's perimeter, forging a path for evacuees. Kalura, despite her gentle ways, displayed surprising fortitude, using her strange healing aura to calm the wounded. Many colonists barely made it out alive as entire sections of the dome caved in, burying any Orion squads that failed to retreat in time. By nightfall, only rubble remained of what once was the main settlement dome. The survivors, battered and numb, trudged across the dunes under swirling red dust. Their sole destination, Starfall Crater, the rumored site of hidden power. The syndicate, half livid, half reeling, pursued them. War had arrived in full on Solaris 7, and dawn would decide the fate of them all. Chapter 7. Unlocking Starfall. By the time Elena, the sisters, and a ragged column of colonists arrived at the crater, dawn stained the horizon in amber. Exhaustion rippled through the group. Some had walked all night carrying children or wounded neighbors. Still, their eyes flicked with a fragile kind of hope. This was their last stand. They found the battered hatch leading to the subterranean facility. It still bore the name Project Starfall. The previous attempt to open it had failed. Averin, wiping sweat from her brow, stepped forward with a makeshift tech kit. Let me try again, she said, voice trembling with fatigue. Solari and a handful of miners stood guard, rifles ready. Overhead, the whine of Orion drones suggested the syndicate was closing in. Meanwhile, Kalura moved among the weary colonists, offering sips of water or healing touches. People were on edge, uncertain if the facility would be refuge or a tomb. Ralima joined Everin, scanning the old earth-coded access panel. It's in your language, Elena. Maybe you can help. Elena squinted, pressing a few console buttons. It's an old Earth script referencing some terraforming experiment. Seems they tried to harness planetary core energy to create stable climates. That might be what Orion wants. A weapon or advanced energy source. Everin connected wires bypassing security protocols. Each beep or spark was a precarious step, as if hacking into the past. With careful adjustments, the ancient system hummed to life, lines of code flickering. Then an automated voice crackled in the air. Project Starfall override accepted. Doors opening. A jolt of excitement rippled through the group. Mechanical groans echoed as the hatch slid aside, revealing a descending staircase lit by emergency lights. The air felt stale but breathable, a testament to the facility's sealed environment. One by one, they moved inside, torches and battered flashlights illuminating the gloom. Below, a vast corridor emerged, lined with control consoles and massive metal cylinders. Motes of dust danced in beams of overhead lights. Faded signs identified labs labeled energy transfer, climate regulation, biodome simulation. The place was like a time capsule from Earth's golden age of colonization. At the corridor's end loomed a chamber with a large, transparent dome embedded in the ceiling. Beneath it was a huge contraption shaped like a vertical ring, wires snaking around. It hummed with latent power. On a raised platform, a control terminal displayed a blinking standby signal. Evren's eyes widened. This must be the core of Project Starfall, possibly a partial terraforming engine or a climate stabilizer. Kalura shuddered. So much stored energy. I feel it resonating in the walls. Relima approached the console. If we can reactivate it, maybe it can sustain the colony or repel the syndicate. But how? Elena was about to suggest caution when a frantic shout from the corridor signaled Orion's arrival. Zack the miner scrambled in, breathless. Syndicate troopers. They've tracked us. We have minutes, maybe less. Solari's jaw tightened. Then we make our stand here. The colonists, though weary, formed a defensive perimeter at the chamber entrance. Evren and Kalura focused on the control panels, searching for a quick reactivation. As tension mounted, Elena realized they had only two choices: harness the machine's power or destroy it to keep it from Orion's clutches. Neither option guaranteed survival. Down the corridor, the clatter of boots' embarked orders grew louder. Relima closed her eyes, summoning the courage born of her diplomatic soul. If we fight, we risk losing everything. Is there any chance to negotiate? Elena responded with a hard stare. Varrox doesn't negotiate. This is war. She hefted a salvaged plasma rifle, checking the charge. We buy time for Evren to do whatever she can. If we hold them off, we might secure a future for Solaris 7. A hush settled. The entire facility seemed to throb in anticipation, as if remembering old battles. The next moment, syndicate troopers burst into the corridor, rifles blazing. Shots ricocheted off walls, throwing sparks into the stale air. The colonists returned fire, yelling defiance. The corridor became a storm of plasma bolts, overhead lights flashing with each discharge. Varrox's men pressed forward in disciplined waves, determined to capture the heart of Project Starfall. Amid the chaos, Elena and Solari took point, gunning down troopers with lethal precision. Kalura stayed behind them, occasionally stepping in to stabilize wounded defenders, her calming presence a small beacon amid the carnage. Relima darted between cover, calling out encouragement. Zack rallied the miners, cursing the syndicate with every shot. In the central chamber, Evren wrestled with the console's labyrinthine code. She glimpsed references to overload protocol, atmospheric shifts, and emergency planetary realignment. The numbers and jargon overwhelmed her. Arcadian or not, this was complex Earth science from an era long gone. She risked a chance and toggled a switch labeled System Activation. Alarms blared. Suddenly, the ring structure flickered with turquoise arcs. A deep hum reverberated, shaking the floor. Kalura gasped, feeling waves of energy swirl around them. The dusty overhead dome cracked as faint sunlight penetrated, forming shifting rays of brilliance. Elena shouted over the noise. Whatever you did, Evren, do it faster. They're pushing us back! The syndicate's assault forced the defenders to retreat deeper into the chamber, each step laced with danger. Varrox stepped into view, face twisted with triumph. This ends now! He fired a powerful plasma blast that tore through a chunk of machinery. Sparks rained down, forcing Elena and Solari to dive behind a console. More troopers poured in, cornering the colonists. In that moment, the ring device roared to life, unleashing a vortex of swirling energy that illuminated the chamber in blinding brilliance. Evren's hands flew over controls, uncertain how to contain it. The entire facility vibrated as if on the verge of an earthquake or a dimensional rift. A standoff hovered in the blazing light. If they failed to master the machine, Orion would claim it or it would destroy them all. But if they succeeded, Project Starfall might become the key to liberating Solaris 7 forever. Chapter 8. The Surge of Hope. In the swirling radiance of the ring device, arcs of turquoise energy crackled across the control consoles. The floor quaked, rattling loose panels and scattering debris. Screams and curses echoed as defenders and syndicate troopers alike were blinded by the brilliance. Varrock shielded his eyes, one hand clutching his plasma lance. His men hesitated. None had expected a cosmic phenomenon. "Fall back," he roared, but the lure of capturing advanced technology stayed their feet. They advanced in stuttering steps, firing sporadically. Meanwhile, the colonists huddled behind partial cover. Elena squinted through the blinding light. She saw Everin leaning over the console, attempting to stabilize the system. Relima hurried to her side, offering moral support. Solarii, adrenaline surging, lunged from cover and unleashed a barrage of rifle fire on a cluster of troopers. Her skilled marksmanship toppled them, momentarily thinning the syndicate's line. Zack's miners pressed the advantage, tossing improvised grenades. Explosions lit the air, but Orion reinforcements kept coming. At the console, Everin's voice cracked. The system's funneling raw geothermic energy from beneath the planet's crust, amplifying it through a network of old Earth tech. It's borderline meltdown. "Can you harness it safely?" Elena shouted, pinned behind a column as a volley of plasma bolts struck overhead. "I'm trying," Everin keyed in commands, guided by half-intuitive leaps. She found references to localized weather regulation and sonic terraforming. With trembling fingers, she activated a subroutine labeled Storm Induction. The device whined, sparks dancing across the ring. If she could channel the raw power outward, maybe it could force Orion's cruiser to retreat or scramble their ground forces. Kalura joined them, her soft presence incongruous amid the firefight. She placed her palms on Everin's shoulders. "Focus on balance. I can help calm the raging currents within you." A subtle glow spread from Kalura's hands, and Averin felt a soothing clarity. Her racing heart steadied. Outside in the corridor, Varrox bellowed again, urging a final push. The troopers advanced with renewed fervor, pressing the defenders into a tight semicircle around the ring device. The next volley hammered the colonists, injuring many. Elena grimaced as a blast tore through her shoulder armor, searing pains shooting down her arm. Still, she refused to fall. Solarii dragged Elena behind a broken console, checking the wound. "It's not lethal, but you'll need a med kit," Elena hissed in pain. "No time. We stand or we die. Keep them off, Everin." The ring's hum rose to a fever pitch. Everin typed a final command. "Activate storm induction. Level 2. A thunderous boom erupted. An invisible wave blasted outward from the ring, shaking the entire facility. Troopers and colonists alike were thrown off their feet. Sparks showered from overhead cables. Panels shattered. The air crackled with an electric charge that felt almost supernatural. Above ground, storm clouds formed in seconds where none had existed, swirling in a violent vortex over Starfall Crater. Lightning forks stabbed the dusty desert, scorching the environment. The Syndicate's cruiser in low orbit found its sensors blinded, rocking wildly as atmospheric interference spiked. Inside the chamber, the ground rumbled like an earthquake. The ceiling's dome fractured further, revealing a swirling mass of dark clouds shot through with turquoise lightning. Wind whooshed in, howling like a banshee. Syndicate troopers stumbled in panic, some dropping weapons as arcs of static electricity danced around them. Solarii seized the moment, rallying the defenders for a counterattack. Even the wounded Elena forced herself upright, returning fire. The once overwhelming Syndicate line broke. Warriors like Varrox fought to remain upright, but lightning strikes disrupted their gear. Screaming troopers retreated, battered by gale-force winds and flash floods of raw energy. Relima used her skill in diplomacy to urge the colonists forward. "This is our chance," she cried. "Drive them out." The battered but resolute fighters surged ahead, unleashing a final wave of defiance. The Syndicate crumbled. Some fled, others fell to well-placed shots. Varrox, refusing to yield, swung his plasma lance at Solarii. She parried the blow with a savage rifle butt, sending him sprawling into an electrical arc. He roared in agony before collapsing, Half his armor fused to his body. Meanwhile, Everin and Kalura struggled to control the unstoppable wave of weather manipulation. The swirl of lightning and sand threatened to tear the entire facility apart. For a moment, Everin locked eyes with Elena across the chaos. The ex-soldier nodded, trusting the Arcadian sister to guide them safely. With Kalura's calm focus, Everin managed to reduce the storm's output, rerouting the energy in a more diffuse pattern across the planet's upper atmosphere. Slowly, the chamber's quake subsided. The ring device glowed, but no longer threatened immediate meltdown. In the corridor, troopers who survived scattered, leaving behind their wounded. The Orion Syndicate's dream of capturing Project Starfall lay in ruins. The swirling external storm battered the cruiser overhead, forcing it to ascend to a safer orbit. They had lost their ground advantage, their best men, and the element of surprise. A surreal hush followed. Smoke drifted through the battered chamber. Ozone-scented air prickled at everyone's nostrils. The colonists leaned on each other, battered but victorious. Solarii examined Elena's injury more thoroughly, relief in her voice. "You'll make it." Everin collapsed to her knees, trembling from mental strain. Kalura knelt beside her, offering a steadying hand. Relima looked from face to face, tears glistening. They had done it. They had unleashed Starfall's power, driven out the Syndicate, and reclaimed hope. The cost was high, but for the first time in decades, Solaris 7 was free from external chains. Chapter 9. Dawn of a New Alliance. Morning broke over Solaris 7 with unprecedented clarity. Freed from Syndicate oppression, the colony was abuzz with cautious optimism. Though half the settlement lay in ruins, the people walked with heads held higher. The storms conjured by Project Starfall subsided, leaving behind cooler air and more stable atmospheric conditions, a hint that the machine truly had the power to shape the climate. In the battered facility, colonists set up makeshift triage centers. Kalura worked tirelessly with local medics, her gentle aura easing pain. Everin lingered near the ring device, ensuring it wouldn't spiral out of control again. With Ralima's help, she designed a new interface that allowed the machine's terraforming functions to remain active, but not weaponized. They had no desire to repeat that violent storm unless absolutely necessary. In a corridor-turned war room, Elena debriefed with the colonists and the Four Sisters. Their successful push had scattered Syndicate forces. Verox was confirmed dead. The battered Orion cruiser had retreated beyond scanning range. Some predicted it would flee or call reinforcements. Others believed it would never risk returning, having lost so many resources. Elena, sporting a fresh bandage over her wounded shoulder, spoke quietly. "We can't be sure Orion won't return, but we have a window. We should rebuild and fortify." Zach nodded. "First real chance we've got. We'll need a stable system for distributing power, water, and shelter. This facility might help." Relima, in a calm voice, said, "We will do our part. Arcadia owes a debt to the brave colonists of Solaris 7. You sheltered us, fought alongside us. We can't leave you vulnerable." Solarii agreed. "My sisters and I can help train a permanent defense force. If we manage communications, perhaps we can open trade with Arcadia or other friendly systems." Everin added, "And with Project Starfall operating at lower capacity, we could influence local weather, maybe even spark agriculture." A hush of awe filled the group as the possibilities sank in. Once a hopeless dust pit, Solaris 7 now had the seeds of transformation. Some colonists were skeptical, uncertain if they could trust outsiders, but the majority recognized the sisters' genuine commitment. Kalura then softly proposed a vow. "We Arcadians once believed that shared efforts between our worlds would uplift everyone. Let us reaffirm that spirit. We are willing to remain here, at least until stability is assured. In time, we can return to Arcadia and address our captivity. But for now, building a future with you might be the best path forward." Her words carried weight. The battle had shown that alliances could bloom in the darkest of times. Elena felt a swirl of emotion. After so many years drifting, she had found purpose again, defending the defenseless, forging a new life out of the rubble. The colonists regarded her as a hero, but she knew she'd only done what was right. Days turned into weeks. The ring device continued to moderate the climate. Light rains began to sprinkle the desert at dawn, offering hope for irrigation. Colonists labored with fresh resolve, repairing domes, salvaging wrecked areas. Some formed a small planetary defense militia under SOLARIS' guidance, vigilant in case Orion's syndicate attempted a surprise return. Relima organized councils where local leaders could voice concerns, shaping a rudimentary governance that balanced the colony's needs with Arcadian insights. Everin spent long hours studying the facility's archives, discovering simpler ways to harness energy for daily life. Calorta consoled the grieving, performed healing sessions, and took the first steps in bridging cultural gaps. Elena stayed on, rebuffing suggestions she deserved a vacation. She led a volunteer group clearing debris in the main dome. When asked about the future, she'd respond, "I'm not running anymore. This colony stands on the edge of something new. I want to see it through." Their story resonated across the sector, albeit slowly. Drifters from neighboring systems trickled in, lured by rumors of a once-dead planet showing signs of renewal. A handful of Arcadian envoys eventually arrived, following the faint signals Relima transmitted. Over time, trade lines might be established. Trust would take longer, especially if Arcadia's internal politics remained unstable after the princess's abduction was exposed. But one truth was clear. Solaris 7 would never again be just a footnote in galactic records. It had become a symbol of resilience, a place where a forgotten colony rose against tyranny and harnessed an ancient power to shape its destiny. The battered desert world had become a crucible for forging unbreakable bonds among humans and Arcadians alike. At last, on a crisp dawn, Elena and the four sisters stood atop the newly reinforced dome. They gazed at the horizon where faint greenery stirred under mild rainfall. In the distance, the rusting husks of old equipment seemed less like tombstones of the past, more like artifacts awaiting new purpose. Relima breathed a contented sigh. "Look at how the light falls, like it's welcoming a new chapter." Elena nodded, the corner of her lips curving in a rare smile. "We'll keep building, keep fighting if we must. This is our home now." In that moment, they all felt it, a sense of belonging, of hope that soared as high as the morning sky. No matter what the cosmos threw their way, be it returning syndicate fleets or hidden conspiracies, Solaris 7 had awakened from its slumber, guided by the unstoppable will of those who refused to surrender. Epilogue: Starfall's Legacy. Months later, travelers approaching Solaris 7 found an entirely different planet than the one described in old star charts. Gentle rains had turned patches of desert into fields of hardy crops, sustaining a growing population. The newly founded Starfall Council, a joint human-Arcadian body, oversaw resource distribution, environmental stewardship, and planetary defense. Among the colonists, stories of the four alien sisters became legend, painting them as warrior saints who arrived in the darkest hour. Elena Hart, once a forgotten soldier, was revered as the colony's stalwart champion, a living reminder that convictions truly matter. Children grew up hearing tales of how Arcadian courage combined with human tenacity to topple the Orion Syndicate, forging a future nobody could have imagined. High above, where the Orion cruiser once loomed, trade ships now soared in more peaceful orbits, some bearing Arcadian emissaries eager to strengthen the bond with this upstart colony. Even a few syndicate renegades sought amnesty, claiming they wanted to leave behind the brutal old ways. The threat of Orion wasn't completely gone, but they no longer held the upper hand. Deep in the subterranean facility, Everin and Kalura continued refining Project Starfall, ensuring it remained a tool for nurturing, not destruction. Up on the surface, Relima's calm leadership guided the evolving civilization. Solaris-sized militia roamed the boundaries, vigilant against raiders. Over time, new alliances would form, and the shockwaves of their triumph would reverberate through Arcadia's political landscape, potentially reshaping that monarchy for the better. In the hush of a crimson sunset, Elena sometimes strolled out to the dunes alone. The twin suns cast elongated shadows, reminding her of how fleeting everything could be. Yet in each breath of desert wind, she sensed possibility. Where once she felt only bitterness at her discharge and exile, she now cherished hope. Humanity, fuck. Yeah, she had once said it sarcastically, but now it rang proud. When good people found common cause, no obstacle stood unconquerable. The combined force of determined humans and resolute Arcadians had proved unstoppable. Standing at the threshold of day and night, she allowed herself a rare moment of stillness. She recalled Earth's distant cities, the regrets she'd carried, and the countless souls she'd met along the way. She thought of the sisters, forging new destinies side by side with the colony they had chosen to defend. A faint smile curved her lips. The old scars remained, but no longer defined her. She had found a place, a purpose, in a family forged not by blood but by unity of spirit. Thus ended the shadows over Solaris, replaced by a steadfast glow of renewal. The living heart of Starfall hummed beneath the sands, fueling a future where cooperation and courage outshone greed and despair. Perhaps that was the greatest legacy of all. In forging a path against impossible odds, they ignited a light that would guide not just one colony, but countless worlds yearning for liberation across the stars. And so, Solaris 7 rises from ruin, forever changed by bravery, friendship, and a shared determination never to surrender. Elena Hart and the Arcadian princesses have proven that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, hope can shine bright. But the story doesn't end here. New alliances are forming, enemies remain, and the galaxy is watching. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this adventure, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications to join us for more incredible stories. Did Elena and the sisters inspire you? Would you have done anything differently? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to let us know where you're listening from. We love hearing from our community around the globe. Until next time, stay brave, keep dreaming, and remember, when humanity unites, nothing is impossible.